Long before the word was ever whispered, it moved softly through the world. It belonged to the ones who listened, to the rustle of leaves, to the rhythm of the tides, to the quiet language of stars scattered across the night sky. In the earliest days of human history, there were no witches, only people who knew things. They knew which roots could ease a fever, which herbs could calm a restless mind, which words spoken gently could bring comfort to the grieving. They were healers, midwives, story keepers. In the temples of ancient lands, magic was not something to fear, but something to understand. It lived in rituals, in prayers, in the careful blending of the seen and unseen. To practice it was not rebellion, it was reverence. But history has a way of turning knowledge into suspicion. As power began to gather in the hands of institutions, anything that could not be controlled began to feel dangerous. The old ways, passed down quietly, often by women, became shadows in the eyes of authority. And shadows, once feared, grow teeth. By the time Europe entered the late Middle Ages, the word witch had begun to change. It no longer meant healer. It no longer meant wise. It became something darker, something twisted, a symbol shaped by fear, by religion, by the human need to explain suffering. Storms ruined crops. Illness took children. Misfortune struck without warning. And people needed someone to blame. So they looked to the edges of their communities, to the lonely, the outspoken, the different. The witch hunts did not begin all at once. They crept in slowly like frost spreading across glass, a whisper here, an accusation there. Then books were written, sermons delivered, warnings repeated until they hardened into belief. And belief became violence. Between the 15th and 17th centuries, tens of thousands were accused. Many were women, though not all. Some were healers. Some were simply inconvenient. Some were guilty of nothing more than living outside the expectations of their time. Trials were held in crowded rooms thick with fear. Evidence was often invisible. Dreams, visions, the trembling testimony of the frightened. Guilt was assumed, confession was demanded, and silence was rarely an option. In places like Salem, hysteria burned fast and bright, leaving behind a legacy that would echo for centuries. But Salem was only one spark in a much larger fire that spread across continents. Eventually, the flames died down. The Enlightenment arrived, carrying with it a different kind of power, the power of reason. Slowly, painfully, societies began to question what they once accepted without doubt. Laws changed. Executions ceased. The word witch lost some of its terror, but it never disappeared, because words like that rarely do. Instead, it waited. And over time, something unexpected happened. The word was reclaimed. Today, many who call themselves witches do so with intention, not fear. They return to the old rhythms, the cycles of the moon, the turning of the seasons, the quiet rituals of reflection and connection. Modern witchcraft is less about spells cast in secret, and more about presence, awareness, and the search for meaning in a chaotic world. It is, in many ways, a remembering that knowledge can live outside of institutions, that intuition has value, that there is power in simply paying attention to nature, to history, to ourselves. The figure of the witch has changed shape countless times across centuries. She has been healer, villain, scapegoat, survivor, symbol. She has been feared, hunted, silenced, and now in many places she is heard again. But beneath all those versions, something constant remains. The witch has always stood at the edge of what society understands. And at that edge, there is always tension. Between fear and curiosity. Between control and freedom. Between what is known and what refuses to be contained. So the story of witches is not really about magic. It is about people. About who gets to hold knowledge. About who is trusted and who is not. About how quickly fear can reshape truth. And perhaps most of all, it is about what happens when the quiet voices of the past are finally allowed to speak again. If you listen closely, you can still hear them, not in curses or spells, but in the wind through the trees, in the hush before dawn, in the enduring, unspoken truth that what we once feared, we may one day come to understand.